Hi, everyone. Believe it or not, this is the fifth week of self-isolation. And I've been walking us through Psalm 23, written by David. And so far, we've looked at verses 1 through 4. But today we're going to focus on verse 5. Let me read that to you, verses 1 through 5. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. And he makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. And he guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. For even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, and your rod and your staff, they comfort me. And you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies, and you've anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Now remember, Jesus has already told us that he is the good shepherd in John chapter 10. And his sheep hear his voice, and they follow him. And David told us in verse 3 that the Lord, the good shepherd, that he guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. This is the centerpiece of this psalm. Everything hinges on verse 3. The Lord is with his people, and he provides us with his righteousness, his right standing before God. God is satisfied in his Son, Jesus Christ. He is the good shepherd. And we are credited his righteousness when we trust in Christ by faith. And he will guide us, and he'll help us, and he'll walk with us through these times. And we do not have a distant king, but we have one who is close and intimate. Now in verse 4, David talks about when we're in that valley of the shadow of death. Now these are difficult trials. This is not necessarily death itself, but you might call it the dark night of the soul when doubt creeps in. Now, as God's people, we do not need to fear evil at that time because he is with us and he comforts us. And now in verse 5, David speaks about when we come out of that valley of the shadow of death, that difficult time, that time of doubt. Now, some people might think that God's waiting there to reprimand them. But instead, David says this is a time of celebration, a time of feasting. Listen to what he says in verse 5. He says, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies, and you have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. What a beautiful picture of the reality of our walk with the Lord. Each of us is going to experience times of trial. We're in a trial right now together. And when we face that dark night of the soul, maybe a time of doubting God, a time of struggle, when we come out of that, our good shepherd is not there waiting to reprimand us or judge us harshly in our weakness. No, instead, we see that the Lord is waiting there to celebrate with us with a wonderful feast. Now, in the Jewish context, feasting could go on for days. Man, they would love to party with good wine and all their friends. And it is the Lord who has prepared a table for us. Upon our return, the Lord is there ready to celebrate and rejoice our homecoming. And even before our enemies, God is lifting us up as those who are valued and adored. Let me tell you, this is a picture of grace. It is grace freely given, and it is available to all of us who know the Lord. And it's not just when we get to heaven and when we die. No, it's now, in this life now. The Lord longs to be with his people, and he longs to celebrate when we come out of that valley. This is a picture of a homecoming, a family celebration, where there's singing and dancing and good food and abundance of joy. Now this reminds me of the parable that's told us in Luke 15, verses 16 through 32. This is known as the parable of the prodigal son. What you have in that parable is a son who comes to his father, and he wants to have his inheritance early. And the father generously gives it to the son early. But the son takes that inheritance, and he leaves the home, and he squanders his money in unholy, unrighteous living. He sins, and he spends all his money. And then when he's spent everything that he has, he suddenly realizes, he comes to his senses, and he begins to think upon the Father, how generous and kind his Father is. And he decides he's going to go back home, and he says, I know, I'll go home and I'll make myself a slave to my Father. And so when he's a long way off from home, His father, who's been standing on his front porch looking for his son's return, sees his son coming home. And it says he runs to his son, and he embraces his son, and he kisses his son. And he brings out the robe and the ring and the sandal. And instead of making him a slave, no, he anoints his son and makes him a son again, part of the family again. And he throws him a party, a celebration. Matter of fact, this is such a loud party, his other son, who's out in the field, hears about it. Guys, this picture of what happened should bring us peace and rest. The Good Shepherd celebrates us when we come home. He even treats us as an honored guest. He anoints our head with oil. This is a special honor of blessing put upon a special guest. And he does it in front of everybody, even the enemy. The Father keeps the celebration going. David says, "My cup, it overflows." This is a picture of the wine continuing to be poured out, a continual blessing of abundance poured out upon God's people. There is a blessing of abundance of joy upon the child of God. Now, this is such a wonderful picture of love and acceptance for God's people by the Lord. He is not a stingy God. He is not one who is harboring wrath against us when we have a time of doubt. No, we have Jesus, our Good Shepherd, and he delights in you and me, and he has a pasture waiting for us, and he wants to celebrate with us when we return to him. Now, this should be an encouragement for us now as we're going through this trial now, this time of isolation. If God be for us, who can be against us? He deserves our worship and our praise because he is truly a good, good Father. Now, I hope that we can be together real soon as a church. But until that day, I pray that we will rejoice in our Father, that we can rejoice in his strength. Now, I hope you know that I love you in Christ, and I hope to see you real soon. May God bless you and protect your family. Until that day, I pray that he is with you. God bless. Hope to see you soon. Bye.